Hi. Recently somebody posted a video presentation in this format where he discussed what he called briefcase guns, and he specifically asked me for my input on the topic, so today will be my top 5 briefcase guns. However, I have a reputation for being long-winded, and today will be no exception. Before we can even get to the top 5, I have to discuss what the term briefcase gun means, or at least what it means to me. I have to have a brief discussion on why you might carry such a thing, and I have to go through a list of disclaimers. Now first, in talking about what the term briefcase gun means, in watching his video, if I understood him correctly, and then adding that to my input on the subject, the briefcase gun is something that you would carry in a briefcase or a gym bag or an overnight bag or a backpack, in addition to your concealed carry handgun that's on your person. He discussed the concept of people who carry their concealed carry handgun in their backpack, and he described those people with the word delusional. Now, that might be a strong word, but it is a sentiment with which I agree. If you're carrying your concealed carry handgun in a backpack, you are most likely not going to be able to get it into action quickly enough to solve your problem. When I say that, there are people who will argue that having the gun in the backpack is better than having left it at home, and there is some validity to that. And the what-if brigade will come up with all of these scenarios where the gun in the backpack might save you. But let me give you a couple of scenarios. One, you're in your car, you have your girlfriend with you, you're sitting on the bank of the river, you're going to watch the submarine races, and you have your backpack on the back seat with your pistol in it. And you see some suspicious-looking characters. They haven't done anything yet, but you're concerned. So you get in the back seat, get your handgun out, keep it handy, and then sure enough, they try to rob and or kill you, and you defuse the situation with your handgun. Okay, let me give you another scenario. You have your handgun in your backpack, you're wearing your backpack, you're walking through the mall, a mass shooting occurs. But not right in front of you, it's at some distance. You have time to run into the bookstore, take cover behind a bookshelf, get your backpack off, get your handgun out. Okay, there's two glaring problems with both of those scenarios. One, I'd consider those scenarios to be far less likely than other scenarios, such as you're getting money out of the ATM, someone points a gun at you, steals your money, and steals your backpack with a gun in it. Scenarios like that, or carjacking and so forth, are going to be, in my opinion, far more likely than the what-if brigade scenarios where you have time to get your gun out of your backpack. I want to make it as clear as I can that your briefcase gun or your backpack gun is in addition to your concealed carry handgun on your person. And you're going to have a gun in your briefcase with the concept that you're going to transport it from A to B, and then once you get to B, you're going to get that gun out, put it together if necessary, and then use it once you've arrived there. If you're doing a hiking trip in the wilderness area and you have a gun in your backpack, it is not there for the purpose of defending you against lions and tigers and bears, oh my, while you're hiking. It's that once you get to camp and you set up your tent, then you go in your tent and put that together, and that gun is there for you while you're in camp. The best scenario I can come up with is when you're traveling and you're driving long distance and you stop for the night at a motel, you're going to carry your bag into the motel room, and then when you get into the motel, you're going to get your gun out of your bag, put it together, and it will enhance your defensive capabilities. And that is how I'm going to define a briefcase gun. Now, the second thing, if you already have a concealed carry handgun, why would you carry an additional gun in a briefcase or a bag? And again, the concept is to enhance your defensive capabilities with a firearm that will be more up to the task than your concealed carry handgun. Now, the gun in your briefcase might very well be a shotgun or some kind of carbine, and bear with me if I use the term carbine and rifle interchangeably. And if it is some kind of carbine, there would be many exceptions, of course, but the basic concept is that your carbine is going to have a greater magazine capacity than your handgun. It's going to be more powerful than your handgun. And most people can shoot carbines more accurately than they can shoot handguns. And so once you've arrived at wherever you're going, that briefcase gun can be put together and enhance your defensive capabilities. Okay, with that in place, let's talk about the disclaimers. One, I am in no way encouraging you to have a briefcase gun, nor am I discouraging you from that. I am not recommending any course of action. Today's presentation will be done from the standpoint that you've already decided that a briefcase gun might be a good idea. Secondly, the firearms on my top 5 list are based on the firearms that are available to me and based on my opinions. And of course, my opinion is based on my education, my training, my experience. And I make no claim that my opinion has its origin in the mind of greatness. However, different people may have different firearms available to them. Different people have different experiences, so they have different opinions. Therefore, someone else's top 5 list might be very different than mine. And so, 3, nothing I say today should be inferred as any kind of tutorial or recommendation. I am in no way trying to tell you what kind of firearm you should have in your bag. I'm only going to show you some of the firearms that I'm going to use to fill that niche. However, 4, there is one recommendation that I'm going to make. Before you start putting a gun in your briefcase or your gym bag, check your local laws. And 5, this is a top 5 list, but none of these firearms are in any particular order. However, I am going to save number 1 for last. So finally, with all of that, let's get to the first thing on my list. Remember that the concept of the briefcase gun is that when compared to your concealed carry handgun, it's going to be more powerful and or more accurate and or have greater capacity. And with that in mind, the first thing on my list is not a firearm, but a firearm accessory. Now today I'm carrying my Beretta 92FS in a very visible holster. Sometimes I'll use this for concealed carry, and when I do, it has a 15-shot magazine in it. So in my briefcase, I would have this 30-shot magazine. It does not make the pistol any more powerful or more accurate, but it does double my capacity. And I would carry this magazine in a briefcase because it would be very difficult to conceal on my person. Although depending on how you conceal it, it might help you get dates. Now extended magazines like this are actually very common. Here's one that's a 17-shot magazine for my Colt government model in caliber 38 Super Auto. And although it would be rare to need this many rounds in a citizen-involved shooting, in some cases this could be a real game changer. Now let's take a look at something that actually is a firearm. I'm going to repeat this concept several times today. Your briefcase gun is in addition to your concealed carry handgun, and it should be something that is more powerful and or has greater capacity and or is something you can shoot more accurately than your concealed carry handgun. So when we talk about the first real firearm on my list, I take into consideration that depending on who you are and the conditions under which you're carrying a firearm, your concealed carry handgun might be required to be something fairly small. So, if my concealed carry handgun is my Smith & Wesson Model 36, then my briefcase gun may be my Smith & Wesson Model 686-6. We have 38 Special with a 1 7/8 inch barrel versus 357 Magnum with a 6-inch barrel. So, significantly more powerful. And with 38 Special and 357 Magnum, at least the ammunition is one-way interchangeable. We also have a 5-shot cylinder versus a 7-shot cylinder, significantly more capacity. And we have a short sighting plane with small fixed sights versus a long sighting plane with large high visibility fully adjustable sights. So I should be able to shoot it more accurately. Let's put that to the test. So I have 2 targets set up, and I'll go back 25 yards and I'll shoot the target on your left with the Model 36, the target on your right with the 686, and let's see how the groups compare. Typically I keep the camera down by the target so you can see the impacts as they occur, but today for demonstration purposes I'm going to have the camera back here with me. Both of these revolvers are double action. They can be fired in a single action mode, which will in some circumstances allow me to shoot more accurately. But today I'm going to shoot them both double action, and I'm going to shoot as fast as I think I can hit the target. So let's see how we do. And now let's try the 357.
Let's take a look at the targets.
With the 38 Special, we see 5 impacts. They are in no particular order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With the 357, we see 7 impacts, again in no particular order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Obviously, I can shoot the 686 more accurately. Now let's try another firearm. Next on my list is the Beretta CX4 Storm Rifle. It's very compact and will fit into some of the gym bags I own. And even if it won't, it's very easy to disassemble. Removing one pin allows it to come apart to where it'll fit into just about any gym bag. Now the main reason I like this rifle, aside from its compactness, is that it's caliber 9x19 and uses the same magazine as the Beretta 92FS pistol, so they make a great pair. But if it's the same caliber and uses the same magazine as the pistol, what advantage does it have? Well, many people can shoot a carbine more accurately than they can shoot a pistol. Let's see if I can. So I've got 2 reactionary targets, and I'll go back 20 yards and I'll shoot the target on your left with the 92FS and the target on your right with the CX4, and we'll see how the groups compare. Now remember, I'm shooting both of these firearms offhand from 20 yards. And with the pistol, I can cover this group with my hand, so it's not a bad group. But with the carbine, it's a much better group, and I was able to shoot it faster. The question comes up, will the PCC with its longer barrel give you more power than the pistol when both are loaded with the same ammunition? Well, I've got the chronograph set up at 7 yards, and I have the CX4 Storm loaded with Winchester White Box 9x19 115 grain full metal jacket round nose. $13.80. $14.19. $13.19. $13.87, $13.76, $13.83, and $14.13. Now let's see how that compares to the pistol when it's loaded with the same ammunition. $10.82. $11.79, $11.72, $11.67, $11.69, and $11.62. Now that first shot that got $10.82, I don't know if you could hear a difference, but I could certainly feel a difference in the pistol. So something was wrong with that round. We're going to throw that one out. So let's go crunch the numbers. Well, I crunched the numbers, and it comes with a caveat that chronographs don't always agree with each other, and certain environmental factors like ambient temperature and elevation can affect chronograph results. But the results I got were, with the pistol, a mean velocity of 1,169. With the carbine, 1,382. That's 213 feet per second more. That's significantly more. But how will that translate into effectiveness on the intended target? Let's see if we can demonstrate that. Now, to demonstrate our effectiveness, we're going to use something called the meat target. And for those who haven't seen it before, the meat target is leather jacket skin, followed by pork steak pectoral, pork ribs, a bag of oranges to simulate lung tissue, more pork ribs on the back, 4 layers of t-shirt on the front, 4 layers on the back, and the whole thing followed by the new and improved high-tech fleece bullet stop. I've got my Beretta 92FS loaded with Winchester White Box 9x19, 115 grain jacketed hollow point. And I'll shoot this from 7 yards. We'll see what kind of effectiveness we get. Then repeat the drill with the same ammunition in the CX4 Storm rifle and see if our greater velocity translates to greater effectiveness on the target. Well, here's the ribs on the front of the target, and we see a lot of damage, and where projectiles hit the ribs, shattered them. We also see some pretty good damage to our orange lung tissue. Now, by the time the projectiles reach the meat on the back of the target, they've lost a lot of their velocity, so we just see holes through here. And in this case, none of the projectiles actually hit a rib. But after the projectiles passed through the ribs on the back of the target, they were all stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target. Now, let's take a close-up look at the projectiles. And when fired from the pistol, we see that these projectiles give us good expansion, and it's uniform expansion. Now I have the CX4 Storm rifle loaded with the Winchester White Box 115 grain jacketed hollow point, and I have a new meat target set up, and I'll shoot it from 7 yards, and let's see how we do. Well, I've got the meat target taken apart, and I'm seeing significantly more damage to our pork steak pectoral. There's a lot more damage to the ribs on the front of the target, and I'm seeing a lot of orange puree. There's also significantly more damage to the ribs on the back of the target. I'm seeing bigger holes, and in this case, some of the projectiles did hit ribs, and where they hit the ribs, shattered them. I'm also seeing projectile fragments all through the target. But what I'm not seeing is significantly more penetration. Of the 4 shots, 1 made it through to about the 10th layer of fleece. 3 of them were stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target. But let's take a look at these projectiles now. So here's the projectiles fired from the CX4, and we see that 1 lost its jacket. We also see significantly greater expansion. So based on this rudimentary demonstration, if your briefcase gun is a PCC, even if it's the same caliber as your pistol, your accuracy and your effect on the intended target appear to be significantly enhanced. Next on my list is a pump shotgun. Now, pump shotguns typically will not have significantly greater capacity than your handgun, sometimes significantly less capacity, but depending on your firearm and ammunition choices, your shotgun can be a lot more powerful than your handgun. Now, at very short ranges, before your pattern is spread out, your shotgun won't really enhance your hit probability. But at ranges of like 20 or 30 yards, when that pattern is spread out significantly, it can greatly enhance your hit probability. The downside of shotguns is that they're big. If you had a hunting shotgun that had a 24 or a 28-inch barrel, you can unscrew your barrel retention screw, take that barrel off and make it a little bit shorter. But that doesn't really apply with my Mossberg 500 because the tube magazine goes clear to the end of the barrel. I can take off the barrel, then unscrew the tube magazine, take off the forestock, and make it significantly shorter, but that's more disassembly than I want to do. So it would appear that shotguns like your Remington 870 series, your Mossberg 590 series, or my 500 are contraindicated for this application. So the solution, at least for me, is the Mossberg Shockwave. The Shockwave has a great advantage and a great disadvantage when compared to more conventional shotguns. The advantage being it'll fit in the bag. The disadvantage being that it's not legal in all jurisdictions. Check your local laws. Now, in discussing the Shockwave, there's 2 big concerns that people have. One is capacity. Both of these firearms have 3-inch chambers, but when loaded with 2 3/4-inch ammunition, my 500 has a capacity of 7+1, the Shockwave a capacity of 5+1. That is less, but in my opinion, still a sufficient number of rounds. The second concern that people have is, when you compare the Shockwave's 14-inch barrel to the 500's 20-inch barrel, are you going to have a significant loss in velocity? And the answer is, we have a presentation on how shotgun barrel length affects velocity, and yes, there is a loss in velocity, but in my opinion, not enough to matter in this application. The biggest concern I have with the Shockwave is that with no stock and having to aim and shoot it like that, how fast and accurately can I shoot the Shockwave? Let's put that to the test. So I've got our favorite target, soda jugs, set up at 10 yards, and I'll shoot them with the 590, then repeat that process with the Shockwave and see how speed and accuracy compare. Now let's try that with the Shockwave. And now we'll try this drill with the Shockwave. Accuracy was okay, but definitely slower. In shooting the soda jug drill, you'll see that I was holding the Shockwave up here. When I shoot it like that, I will immediately have people telling me that I'm doing it wrong and that the Shockwave is intended to be fired from the hip. If you shoot it from the hip or some kind of assault position, then you can absorb the recoil without concerning yourself that it's going to hit you in the face, and it's just a more stable platform. Okay, but I have a concern with that. Let me show you what I mean. If I had my Mossberg Model 500 shotgun and I were to take cover behind this tree, I could shoot, exposing relatively little of myself. With the Shockwave, if I were to take cover behind this tree, I could shoot, exposing relatively little of myself. But shooting from the hip, I can still shoot, exposing relatively little of myself, but maybe just a little bit more. However, if I were to take cover behind the engine compartment of the Jeep, let's see how that looks. With the Mossberg 500, I could shoot, exposing relatively little of myself. With the Shockwave, I could shoot, exposing relatively little of myself. But if I shot from the hip, what's wrong with this picture? Another problem with shooting from the hip is accuracy, or the lack thereof. I've got the soda jug set up again, but this time I'm only going to shoot from 7 yards. Now you see I was able to hit those. That's the result of lots and lots of practice. That might look easy, but if you think it looks easy, go to the range and try it. The Mossberg Shockwave has a lot of pluses, the two biggest ones being good capacity and that it fits in the bag. But it also has some minuses, in my opinion the two biggest ones being that it can be difficult to shoot and that it's legally prohibited in some jurisdictions. So let me show you a shotgun that's very easy to shoot and legal just about everywhere, and that is my Rossi Coach gun. Double-barreled shotguns have one major downside, and that is limited capacity. However, in a legitimate, citizen-involved self-defense shooting where that citizen is armed with a shotgun, most of the time 2 shots is sufficient. Now mine has 2 hammers and 2 triggers, but you can buy versions of double-barreled shotguns that do not have exposed hammers. You just disengage a safety, pull one trigger, then the other. You can also buy versions that only have 1 trigger. You just pull it twice. Double-barreled shotguns are very easy to operate and very easy to disassemble and put in your bag. So we've made it to number 1 on my list, and it's something that will not surprise anybody, and that is any one of the many different versions of AR platform. Now this is an A1. It has A2 handguards on it, but it's an A1. I like this version because it's light and because I can shoot a rifle with a 20-inch barrel more accurately than I can the carbine with a 16-inch barrel. There's a few things I want to show you about this rifle. One thing in particular right now. I've got 3 rounds in it and I'm going to run it empty. I can reload an AR platform faster and more easily than any other rifle I've ever worked with. Obviously, this rifle is too big to fit into any kind of briefcase or gym bag. But the thing about AR platform rifles is that most of them have 2 pins you can push out and separate the upper and lower receiver. And remember, this has a 20-inch barrel. Most of the more modern ones will have a 16-inch barrel. There's also AR platform pistols that can have a 10.5-inch barrel or less. And because those firearms do not have a stock, they have a collapsible arm brace, a lot of them can be put into briefcases or gym bags without disassembly being required. Unfortunately, due to some recent political and social events, any firearms like that I have in my inventory have developed a very serious case of stage fright. So, as always, don't try this at home on what you call a professional, and thanks for watching my top 5 briefcase guns video.